a realm where your greatest enemy isn't the person standing before you, but the limitations you have placed upon yourself. How to destroy your enemy without fighting them. Who is your enemy? Is it your competitor in business, your rival at school? Or perhaps it's that voice inside your head telling you that you're not good enough, whatever form your enemy takes. I want you to picture them clearly in your mind right now. Got it. Good. Now, here's the truth that's going to set you free. Your enemy only has as much power as you give them. Read my lips. Your enemy's strength is directly proportional to your perception of their importance in your life. Let me break it down for you. When we talk about destroying our enemies, we are not talking about physical destruction. We are talking about rendering them irrelevant. We are talking about rising so high that they can no longer reach you. We are talking about becoming so focused on your purpose that their very existence becomes inconsequential. You see, the greatest victory isn't winning a fight. The greatest victory is making the fight unnecessary. It's about elevating yourself to a level where the battles others want to drag you into become entirely beneath you. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but how do I do that? How do I rise above when my enemy is constantly pulling me down? I'm glad you asked. Let me give you 5 principles that will revolutionize your approach to dealing with your enemies. Principle number 1, focus on your purpose, not your opposition. Your purpose is like a magnet, drawing you towards your destiny. When you're truly aligned with your purpose, the actions of your enemies become mere background noise. Imagine you're driving a car. Your purpose is your destination. Your enemy, they're just a roadside distraction. The more attention you give them, the more likely you are to veer off course. Keep your eyes on the road. Keep moving towards your destination. Principle number 2. Cultivate self-awareness. Know thyself, as the ancient Greeks would say. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, fears, and motivations is crucial. Why? Because self-awareness is the foundation of self-improvement. When you know yourself, truly know yourself, you become immune to the manipulations of others. Their words can't shake you because you already know who you are. Their actions can't deter you because you're secure in your path. Principle number 3, practice emotional intelligence. This is about understanding and managing your emotions, as well as recognizing and influencing the emotions of others. When you master emotional intelligence, you gain the power to respond rather than react. How often have you been baited into a conflict because someone pushed your emotional buttons? How many times have you regretted actions taken in the heat of the moment? Emotional intelligence gives you the ability to pause, to choose your response, to remain calm in the face of provocation. Principle number 4, build your circle of influence. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you to be better, who support your dreams. Your circle of influence is like a fortress. The stronger it is, the more impenetrable you become to negative external forces. Remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose wisely. Let your circle be a source of strength, inspiration, and growth. Principle number 5, continuously improve yourself. This is perhaps the most powerful principle of all. When you commit to constant self-improvement, you create an ever-widening gap between yourself and your enemies. If you improve yourself by just 1% every day, in 70 days, you will be twice as good as you are now. In a year, you will be 37 times better. Can you see how powerful this is? While your enemies are busy plotting against you, you're busy becoming a better version of yourself every single day. Your purpose is your North Star. It's the reason you get out of bed in the morning. It's what drives you to push through obstacles and keep going when times get tough. Your purpose isn't just about you. It's about the impact you can have on the world. It's about the lives you can touch, the changes you can make, the legacy you can leave behind. When you're truly focused on your purpose, petty conflicts and rivalries fade into insignificance. Why? Because you're playing a bigger game. You're not concerned with winning arguments or proving points. You're concerned with fulfilling your potential and making your unique contribution to the world. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're an entrepreneur with a vision to revolutionize education through technology. You have got a competitor who's constantly trying to undermine you, spreading rumors, copying your ideas. Now, you could spend your energy fighting back, trying to expose them, trying to win each little battle. Or you could pour that energy into perfecting your product, into reaching more students, into actually changing lives through education. Which approach do you think will yield better results in the long run? Which approach will leave you feeling more fulfilled? Which approach will have a greater impact on the world? When you're focused on your purpose, you don't have time for enemies, you're too busy changing the world. Self-awareness is like having a mirror for your soul. It allows you to see yourself clearly. without distortion, without self-deception. Self-awareness means understanding your values, your beliefs, your strengths, and yes, even your weaknesses. It means being honest with yourself about your fears, your insecurities, your biases. Why is this important in the context of dealing with enemies? Because most of the time, our enemies are able to affect us because they tap into our insecurities. They find our weak spots and exploit them. But when you're self-aware, you take that power away from them. You know your weak spots and you're working on them. You understand your triggers, so you're not easily provoked. You're clear about your values, so you're not swayed by others' opinions or judgments. Self-awareness also helps you understand why you perceive certain people as enemies in the first place. Often what we dislike in others is a reflection of what we dislike in ourselves. By understanding this, we can start to dissolve those enmities, being to see our enemies as fellow human beings, perhaps even as teachers showing us where we need to grow. Let me share a personal story to illustrate this point. Early in my career, I had a colleague who seemed to oppose everything I did. No matter what idea I presented, he would find fault with it. At first, I saw him as my enemy. I felt angry and frustrated every time I had to interact with him. But then, I took a step back and looked inward. I asked myself, why does his criticism bother me so much? And I realized something profound. His words hurt because deep down I was insecure about my ideas. I was afraid of failure, afraid of not being good enough. This realization was a turning point. Instead of seeing my colleague as an enemy, I started to see him as a mirror, reflecting my own insecurities back at me. And you know what? Once I acknowledged those insecurities and started working on them, his criticism lost its sting. In fact, I began to appreciate his perspective because it challenged me to think more deeply, to refine my ideas, to become better. That's the power of self-awareness. It turns your enemies into teachers. It turns obstacles into opportunities for growth. Moving on to emotional intelligence. This is a game changer, my friends. Emotional intelligence is about understanding and managing your own emotions and being able to recognize and influence the emotions of others. When you have high emotional intelligence, you're able to stay calm under pressure. You're able to diffuse tense situations. You're able to communicate effectively, even with people who oppose you. Imagine this scenario. You're in a meeting, presenting your ideas. Someone in the room starts to criticize your proposal harshly. They're not just disagreeing with your ideas. They're attacking you personally. How do you respond? Without emotional intelligence, you might get defensive. You might lash out. You might let your anger get the better of you, saying things you will later regret. And in doing so, you might lose the support of others in the room. But with emotional intelligence, you're able to remain calm. You're able to separate the emotional content of the attack from any valid points of criticism. You're able to respond in a way that addresses the concerns raised without escalating the conflict. You might even be able to turn the situation around, winning over your critic and impressing others with your poise and professionalism. That's the power of emotional intelligence. It allows you to respond rather than react. It gives you the ability to choose your behavior rather than being at the mercy of your emotions. Let me give you another example of how emotional intelligence can help you deal with enemies. Imagine you're a manager and one of your team members is constantly undermining you. They spread negative rumors. They resist your directives. They create a toxic atmosphere in the team. Now, the emotionally unintelligent response might be to confront this person aggressively, to threaten them with disciplinary action, to engage in a power struggle. But what does that accomplish? It only escalates the conflict, creates more negativity, and distracts you from your real work. The emotionally intelligent approach is different. First, you take a step back and try to understand what's driving this person's behavior. Are they feeling insecure in their role? Are they frustrated about something? Once you understand their emotions, you can address the root cause of the problem. You might have a private conversation with them where you listen more than you speak. You might acknowledge their feelings, even if you disagree with their actions. You might find a way to align their goals with the team's goals, turning an enemy into an ally. This approach doesn't just solve the immediate problem. It demonstrates leadership. It builds respect. It creates a positive culture where conflicts are resolved constructively, not destructively. That's the power of emotional intelligence in dealing with enemies. It allows you to transform conflicts into opportunities for understanding and growth. The people you surround yourself with have a profound impact on your life. They shape your thoughts, influence your decisions, affect your mood, and even impact your success. Your circle of influence should be carefully curated. It should consist of people who support your dreams, who challenge you to be better, who bring out the best in you. These are the people who will stand by you when times are tough, who will celebrate your victories, who will give you honest feedback when you need it. When you have a strong circle of influence, you become more resilient to external negativity. The support and positivity from your circle act as a buffer against the actions of your enemies. Moreover, a strong circle of influence can often neutralize your enemies without you having to do anything. Your reputation, your connections, your support system, these can make potential enemies think twice before crossing you. But remember, building a circle of influence isn't about accumulating powerful friends for personal gain. It's about creating genuine relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. It's about surrounding yourself with people who inspire you to be the best version of yourself. Let me share an example of how a strong circle of influence can help you deal with enemies. Imagine you're an artist, and there's another artist in your community who's always criticizing your work, trying to discourage galleries from showing your pieces, even attempting to turn other artists against you. Now, if you're isolated, if you don't have a strong support system, these attacks could be devastating. They could make you doubt yourself, maybe even make you want to give up on your art. But what if you have built a strong circle of influence? What if you have relationships with respected gallery owners who believe in your work? What if you're part of a supportive community of fellow artists who appreciate your unique style? What if you have mentors who can offer guidance and perspective when you're facing challenges? In this scenario, the actions of your enemy would have far less impact. The gallery owners would see through the criticism and continue to show your work. Your fellow artists would stand by you, maybe even speak out in your defense. Your mentors would help you see this conflict as an opportunity for growth rather than a reason for despair. When you have a strong circle of influence, you're never really alone in your battles. You have a network of support that can lift you up when others try to bring you down. Building this circle of influence takes time and effort. It's not about networking in the superficial sense. It's about building genuine relationships. It's about being the kind of person others want to support. It's about adding value to others' lives, not just taking from them. So how do you build this circle of influence? Start by being genuinely interested in others. Listen more than you speak. Offer help without expecting anything in return. Share your knowledge and resources generously. Celebrate others' successes as enthusiastically as you celebrate your own. When you approach relationships with this mindset, you will naturally attract people who share your values, who support your growth, who inspire you to be better. And as your circle grows stronger, you will find that the concept of enemies becomes less and less relevant in your life. Self-improvement. This, my friends, is the secret weapon in destroying your enemies without fighting them. Why? Because when you're constantly improving yourself, you're playing a different game altogether. Continuous self-improvement means never being satisfied with where you are. It means always striving to learn more, to do better, to be better, to be better. It means seeing every experience, good or bad, as an opportunity for growth. When you adopt this mindset, something magical happens. The actions of your enemies start to look like opportunities rather than obstacles. Their criticism becomes fuel for your growth. Their opposition becomes a chance to test and refine your ideas. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're a writer and you have got a critic who constantly attacks your work. Now you could view this person as an enemy. You could get angry, get defensive, try to discredit them. Or you could view their criticism as valuable feedback. You could use it to identify areas where you can improve your writing. You could see it as a challenge to become so good that even your harshest critic can't deny your talent. Do you see the difference? In the first scenario, you're expending energy fighting your enemy. In the second scenario, you're using that same energy to improve yourself. And in doing so, you're not just neutralizing your enemy, you're using them as a stepping stone to become even better. This principle of continuous self-improvement applies to every area of your life. Are you in business? Continuously improve your skills, your products, your services. Are you in a relationship? Continuously work on being a better partner. Are you a parent? Continuously strive to be a better role model for your children. The beauty of this approach is that it shifts your focus from external battles to internal growth. Instead of worrying about what your enemies are doing, you're concentrated on what you're becoming. And as you become better and better, your enemies become less and less relevant. Let me share a personal story to illustrate this point. Early in my career as a speaker and teacher, I faced significant opposition from some established figures in my field. They saw my message as a threat to their way of thinking. They criticized me publicly, tried to discredit my teachings, even attempted to block my speaking engagements. At first, I was angry. I wanted to fight back, to prove them wrong. But then I realized something crucial. Every moment I spent fighting them was a moment I wasn't spending on fulfilling my purpose. Every ounce of energy I devoted to this conflict was energy taken away from the people I was meant to serve. So I made a decision. I chose to focus on my purpose with even greater intensity. I committed myself to continuous improvement, refining my message, honing my skills as a speaker and teacher. I surrounded myself with supportive, like-minded individuals who believed in my vision. And you know what happened? As I grew, as my influence expanded, as more and more lives were transformed through my work, those who opposed me became increasingly irrelevant. Their criticism faded into background noise, drowned out by the testimonies of those who had been positively impacted by my message. I didn't defeat my enemies, I outgrew them. And in the process, I realized that they had actually been some of my greatest teachers, pushing me to articulate my ideas more clearly, to deepen my understanding, to stand firm in my convictions. This is the power of destroying your enemies without fighting them. It's about personal growth, not conflict. It's about rising above, not striking back. It's about becoming so focused on your purpose, so committed to your growth that the very idea of having enemies becomes obsolete. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you might be thinking, but what if my enemy is truly malicious? What if they're actively trying to harm me or sabotage my efforts? I hear you. And yes, there are times when we need to take direct action to protect ourselves or our interests. But even in these situations, the principles we've discussed still apply. They're not just for dealing with minor annoyances or petty rivals. They're powerful tools for navigating even the most challenging conflicts. How these principles can help you when faced with a truly malicious enemy. First and foremost, focusing on your purpose becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded, reminding you of what's truly important. When you're clear about your purpose, you're less likely to be derailed by the actions of others, no matter how malicious they might be. Self-awareness becomes your shield. When you understand your own triggers and vulnerabilities, you're less likely to be manipulated or provoked into actions that could harm you or compromise your integrity. You're able to recognize when you're being baited and choose a more constructive response. Emotional intelligence becomes your secret weapon. It allows you to stay calm and think clearly, even when under attack. It helps you read the situation accurately, understanding not just the actions of your enemy, but the motivations behind those actions. This understanding can be crucial in formulating an effective response. Your circle of influence becomes your support system and your amplifier. When faced with a serious threat, having a network of supportive, influential people can make all the difference. They can offer advice, provide resources, and sometimes even intervene on your behalf. And continuous self-improvement. It becomes your path to resilience and eventual triumph. By constantly growing and evolving, you become a moving target, always one step ahead of those who wish to bring you down. Let me share a story that illustrates how these principles can work even in extreme situations. There was a young entrepreneur I once mentored. Let's call him David. David had a revolutionary green energy technology, and he was on the verge of securing major funding to bring it to market. But there was a problem. A large established energy company saw David's technology as a threat to their business model. They didn't just compete with him fairly. They launched a campaign to destroy him. They spread false rumors about the safety of his technology. They filed frivolous lawsuits to drain his resources. They even tried to poach his key team members. David was devastated. He came to me ready to give up. How can I fight against a company with virtually unlimited resources, he asked. They're everywhere, attacking me from all sides. I feel like I'm drowning. This is where our principles came into play. First, we focused on his purpose. Why had he developed this technology in the first place? It wasn't just about making money. David had a vision of a world with clean, affordable energy for everyone. By reconnecting with this purpose, he found the strength to keep going. Next, we worked on his self-awareness. David realized that part of his distress came from a deep-seated fear of failure, of letting down the people who believed in him. Once he recognized this, he could separate his emotional response from the practical challenges he was facing. We then applied emotional intelligence to analyze the situation. Why was this company so threatened? Understanding their fears and motivations helped David anticipate their next moves and respond more effectively. David then activated his circle of influence. He reached out to environmental groups, research institutions, and forward-thinking investors who shared his vision. They provided support, credibility, and resources that helped him weather the storm. Finally, David committed to continuous improvement. He didn't just work on his technology. He improved his communication skills to better articulate his vision. He studied business strategy to make his company more resilient. He even learned meditation to help him stay calm under pressure. The result? David didn't just survive the onslaught. He thrived. The attacks from the energy company, instead of destroying him, only served to bring more attention to his work. The lawsuits were thrown out of court, damaging the bigger company's reputation. Some of their unethical tactics came to light, leading to public backlash. Meanwhile, David's technology continued to improve. His growing network of supporters helped him secure even more funding. Today, his company is revolutionizing the energy industry, and that once powerful enemy, they're scrambling to catch up, their relevance diminishing by the day. This story illustrates a profound truth. When you rise above the fight, when you focus on growth rather than conflict, you change the entire dynamic. You're no longer playing your enemy's game. You're playing your own game, one where the rules favor your strengths. Now, I want to address another question that might be on your minds. What if my enemy is not an external person or entity, but an internal struggle? What if my greatest enemy is myself? This is perhaps the most important battle of all. Many of us are our own worst enemies. We sabotage our own success. We let self-doubt, fear, and negative self-talk hold us back from reaching our full potential. The beauty is the same principles we've discussed are incredibly effective in overcoming these internal enemies. Let's break it down. Focus on your purpose. When you're clear about your why, it becomes easier to push through self-doubt and fear. Your purpose becomes the driving force that helps you overcome internal resistance. Self-awareness. This is crucial in identifying the negative patterns and beliefs that are holding you back. Once you're aware of these internal enemies, you can start to challenge and change them. Emotional intelligence. This helps you manage those difficult emotions that often fuel self-sabotage. It allows you to recognize when you're being overly self-critical and choose more constructive thoughts and behaviors. Circle of influence. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, even when you're struggling to believe in yourself. Their support can be a powerful antidote to negative self-talk, continuous self-improvement. This principle is all about growing beyond your current limitations. Every small step you take in improving yourself chips away at those internal barriers. Let me share a personal experience to illustrate this. Early in my career as a speaker, my biggest enemy was my own self-doubt. Every time I stood on stage, a voice in my head would say, "Who are you to be teaching these people? What if they realize you're a fraud?" This fear was paralyzing. It affected my performance, made me hesitant to take on bigger opportunities, and nearly derailed my career before it had really begun. The turning point came when I started applying these principles to my internal struggle. I focused on my purpose, my deep desire to empower others and make a positive impact in the world. This purpose was bigger than my fear, and it gave me the courage to push forward. I cultivated self-awareness, recognizing that my fear was rooted in a deep-seated belief that I wasn't good enough. Once I identified this belief, I could start to challenge it. I used emotional intelligence to manage my anxiety before and during speeches. I learned techniques to calm my nerves and channel that energy into passion for my message. I built a circle of influence filled with mentors and fellow speakers who encouraged me and reminded me of my value when self-doubt crept in. And I committed to continuous improvement. I worked tirelessly on my craft, constantly seeking feedback and looking for ways to provide more value to my audience. The result. Over time, that voice of self-doubt grew quieter. It didn't disappear completely. Even today, it sometimes whispers in my ear. But now, instead of being paralyzed by it, I see it as a sign that I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone, that I'm growing. This internal battle is one we all face. The enemy within can be far more formidable than any external foe. But the victory over this enemy is also the sweetest. Because when you overcome your internal limitations, you don't just solve a single problem or win a single battle. You transform your entire life. I want you to identify your biggest enemy right now. It might be a person, an organization, a circumstance, or an internal struggle. Got it? Good. Now I want you to spend the next week applying these principles to that specific situation. Focus on your purpose. Cultivate deeper self-awareness. Practice emotional intelligence. Activate and strengthen your circle of influence. Commit to continuous improvement in the areas relevant to this challenge. Do this consistently for 1 week, and I promise you, you will start to see a shift. You might not have destroyed your enemy in that short time, but you will have changed the dynamic. You will have taken the first steps on the path to rising above the conflict. Remember, the goal isn't to win every battle. The goal is to make the battles irrelevant. To rise so high, to grow so strong that what once seemed like formidable enemies become mere stepping stones on your path to greatness. This journey of growth. this path of rising above your enemies, it isn't always easy. There will be days when you falter. Days when the old patterns of thinking try to reassert themselves. Days when it seems easier to fight back, to stoop to the level of those who oppose you. Every challenge, every enemy, every obstacle is an opportunity to recommit to your purpose, an opportunity to deepen your self-awareness, an opportunity to practice emotional intelligence, an opportunity to lean on and strengthen your circle of influence, an opportunity to improve and grow. Embrace these opportunities, welcome them, for it is through these challenges that you forge yourself into the person you're meant to be. It is through these tests that you discover strengths you never knew you had. You have within you the power to rise above any conflict, to transcend any limitation, to render any enemy irrelevant. That power lies not in your ability to fight, but in your capacity to grow. Nurture that capacity. Believe in it, use it. And as you do, watch in amazement as the landscape of your life transforms. Watch as obstacles turn into opportunities. Watch as enemies become irrelevant. Watch as you step into the fullness of your potential, radiating such purpose, such self-awareness, such emotional intelligence, surrounded by such a powerful circle of influence, and in such a constant state of growth that you become an unstoppable force for good in this world. Oh, my friends, that is true victory. That is true power. That is the art of destroying your enemies without fighting them. Now, go forth and practice this art. The world is waiting for the unique gift that only you can give.